Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Adobe Live. I'm your host, Fabiola Lara. Today on the stream, we're joined by Swedish illustrator Gustaf Öhrnell Hjalmars. I've been practicing that, so I hope I got it right. Are you pumped for today, Gustaf? How are you feeling?
I'm super excited.
I can't
Totally
wait to.
pumped.
Yes, I can't wait to see what you have in store for us today. So, before we get started, if you missed the previous stream, remember you can always view the replays on Behance or YouTube. So, make sure you subscribe to Adobe Live on YouTube so you can catch that. And another quick note, if you're tired of spending too much time creating content, be sure to check out how you can save time by batching your content in the easy to use Adobe Express app hosted by Lucas O'Keefe and Sydney Lanham. Plus, start your day with the Photoshop Creative Challenges hosted by Sam Peterson every weekday at 9 a.m. Pacific. Tune in, challenge yourself with a new prompt each day. It's so much fun. Now, whether you're tuning in from YouTube or Behance today, remember you can drop questions for Gustaf in the chat, and we'll be sure he gets to them while we're live. So remember to hit subscribe to our Adobe Live channel so you never miss a stream if you're watching from YouTube. All right, Gustaf, before we kick off, let's see who we have in the chat for you today. We have Bliss Art, we have Bruce, we have Carol. Oh my gosh, there's so many people. Enlightened Swami, we have another clever Devlin. We have so many people here for you today, Gustaf. So I'm going to hand it over to you so you can, start off by introducing yourself and tell us what we're getting into today.
Thank you so much, Fabiola. It's a real pleasure to be here. I'm so happy to get the chance to be doing this. So my name is Gustaf Öhrnell Hjalmars. I think you did a good job with the pronunciation there. Awesome.
I tried my best.
Of course, yes. So I'm a Swedish illustrator. I've been freelancing for around 15 years now. And you can have a look here at my portfolio. I've done editorial work, ad work, packaging. I do a bit animation and GIF loops as well. And
so
I've
much
even
fun
done
work.
stamps. Thanks. Yeah, I've been real privileged with getting the chance to work with loads of awesome clients like Facebook and Disney and Spotify and Washington Post and Adobe. So that's really fun. And I work digitally, mostly in Illustrator. I do vector-based artworks, but I do love to mix it up with a lot of textures and brush strokes and grains to give it a bit of a more sort of handmade, crafted feel. And I think it comes natural for me because before I started art school, everything I did was just handmade, mostly pen on paper. And
Oh,
the art school,
wow.
yeah. So that's like, I didn't know any of the Adobe programs or any programs at all up until I was like 20 years old.
Oh my gosh, looking at your portfolio, I would think you started on digital tools for sure.
Yeah, no, not at all. And the art school I went to was also very focused on like the physical side of the craft. We got to do like lead lettering.
Got
Play
it.
around with lead types, and we had a huge screen printing workshop. So like the physical or the physical feel is very close to my heart.
But you've taken it in a whole other direction here, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess working as a commercial illustrator, it's just such a huge benefit to work digitally. You can change stuff quickly and easily and just play around, try different options and different directions. So I think for me, it's like merging the best of the two worlds.
Yeah, you've definitely figured out exactly how to bring that like texture to something a lot more clean and slick and commercial friendly in terms of working fast, right? Because if you had to work on paper every time, it would be a lot longer of a process. So what are you showing us today about your process?
Yeah, so I'm gonna just give you sort of a walkthrough on how I do these textures. I have various ways and techniques and little tips and tricks of how I go about it. And I'm gonna do like something akin to this, I would say, if you can see it. Like
yes.
sort of a just a playful, colorful composition of various objects where I get to show off like the different techniques that I use.
So cool. I love how much texture is in this piece, and just like also very dynamic. So I'm very excited to see how you're pulling this off in Illustrator. I feel like most people use shading tools and brushes and stuff like that in Photoshop. But obviously there's huge advantages to working in Illustrator when it comes to anything that you want to animate or just scale. So I'm so interested in seeing how you do this, and I can't wait to see exactly how you're pulling it off. So what are we working on today, or where are we starting from?
We'll be starting, I can just leave my portfolio and head directly over to Illustrator.
Here we go.
And just make an empty artboard. I usually start working in RGB because most of the stuff I do ends up on screen.
Got it.
But of course, if I know from the beginning that I'm gonna do something that will be printed, I might start off in SMYK,
CMYK.
Yeah, CMYK, yeah.
You were gonna say it in Swedish?
Exactly, yeah.
What would it be?
SMYK.
Okay, interesting. Okay, SMYK.
All right, yeah. So I'll just have an empty artboard, and I'll delete all the color swatches except for just white and black, because I want to have just white and black for later. But apart from that, I usually, I want to make my own color palette from scratch. And usually I start with just pasting. Let's see. Adobe Live.
He's prepared.
Yes, I am prepared. So
good.
I have like yeah, exactly. I have a sketch here.
Okay.
So this is usually I start sketching pen on paper, like I did when I was like.
Oh, so this is pen on paper? Did you scan this in, or?
Yeah, I scanned this in.
Wow.
So usually this takes like a couple of iterations on the lightbox. But I feel usually it's helpful to have a rough layout and with the basic shapes mapped out. I guess I could do that in Photoshop as well, but like I mentioned, I do have a love for just
I bet it just flows more naturally for you too. Like if that's how the place that you're most comfortable starting, then why make it more clunky? If you like to work this way and it works for you, I'm like, you don't have to start digitally.
That's it. I'm just gonna make a layer called sketch. Okay. And then I'm gonna, usually I'll just draw this down to maybe 15% opacity or something, or even like 10%, like that. Okay. And I'll just lock that to have it on top. And then I do like an art layer for all the stuff. And then we can call it solid. Just and also background. So this is my like basic how I start out often, and then I might do more layers if need be, but yeah.
I'm super interested in seeing how people organize their layers in Illustrator, because people can do such different things.
But that's the nice thing about Illustrator as well, because if I would have been working in Photoshop, I would have to name like 500 layers probably.
Yeah,
but in Illustrator, you can group everything instead. So I don't have to. I just have to name like maybe like 4 to 10 layers. That's how I usually do it.
And you can do it in the beginning, and then it's really easy to stay organized.
I love that. So I'm just gonna do like I'm thinking I'm gonna do these objects is like a pair of shoes, a cup of coffee, like a Walkman. It's called. It's funny because in Sweden these were called freestyles. So they didn't have a Swedish name, but they were called freestyle, which they aren't called in the English-speaking side of the world. So it's very strange. Anyway, so these are some
a cultural exchange happening on the stream today. I appreciate it.
That's nice. So I'm just gonna have like a gray background color for this, because I'm thinking I'm gonna use like a lot of color. So gray might be a soothing base for all of this. And here's one trick that I always do. I make sure to keep this little thing
Global?
Global, yes. That's very useful.
Why?
And you'll
Can I
see
ask why?
why. Yeah, no, because
You'll show us when the time comes? Okay.
I will use this a
Okay.
lot.
So
Having
everyone has to
cliff
keep on watching to find out.
yeah, I've planned this all out with the cliffhangers, so no one can leave before.
Perfect.
Anyway, I'll just now this is in the background layer, but I'll just drag it into the solid layer because I might want to add stuff like behind these objects, and that's what my background layer is for. So now I'm gonna just go into the art layer. And I'm thinking I'm gonna start with a shoe, and then usually when I have a sketch like this, I'll go with the I think it's called the pen tool, right?
Mm-hmm.
In English, so I can be pretty precise when I'm working. And I'll just, with the shoe, it has sort of an organic shape to it. I just need to be thinking about like what are the major sort of shapes here.
Yes, and are you gonna draw like every single outline, or do you tackle it with shading? Like, how do you know which parts of the shoe you want to draw?
Yeah, I usually just start with sort of the outer
Okay.
basic outer shape.
And you get more and more detailed as you go.
Yeah, and I would have loved to be able to say that I just went about this very like doing this with all of the objects, sort of. But usually I just do, maybe if I start with the shoe, I'll get stuck with the shoe and just start building it and forget about that I have to make all the other objects as well. So that's also a benefit of Illustrator, because I can always go back and change and reduce. Maybe the shoe got too detailed because that was where I started out. So then I can just go back and throw away a lot of stuff that I did. So I want the shoe anyway to be white, and I never use like black and white. I usually go for like a warm white.
Nice. Why is that, you think?
I guess it's because I always use a reduced color palette. So I don't want too many colors, not too many hues, because I want like a graphic contrast. Keeping the global box checked again. And because of that, I think I want like a softer, I don't want the brightest tone to be like 100% white, because I want like softer feeling, almost as if it would have been printed on paper, maybe.
That's really smart.
Even though it's like, maybe it's just showing on screen somewhere, but I still want that feeling.
Yeah, because otherwise it's like too perfect white.
Yeah, exactly. Same with the black. I want it to feel like it's been printed in the 50s, you know?
Like screen printed.
Yeah, exactly. Screen printed on some old sort of yellowed paper or something like that.
Yeah, some dusty paper that's been sitting around waiting for the perfect project. Okay.
Yes.
Now I'm seeing the inspiration, and I think it's smart, and I'm going to try it next time, avoiding like the 100% white and 100% black.
Exactly. I like that personally, but you know, it depends on what you're going for. But anyway, so now I've just got two shapes here, and this is sort of the back shape, and this is what goes in front. And maybe I can I'm going to change this to the gray, and maybe duplicate that gray and make it like a bit darker.
Okay.
All right.
I like it. And then that way you're like playing just with those different hues without just picking random colors all the time.
Yeah, for sure. And another thing that I usually do, maybe around this point, now I have like the three main shapes of the shoe. So maybe now I'm starting to think that, okay, I have this white color and I have the gray color. So maybe I want to make like a sort of a scale with hues or tones. I don't really know in English what the exact difference is, but like scaling from a dark color to my lightest color.
Perfect.
So my darkest color might be like I usually pick a color like in the blue spectrum,
Okay.
not too saturated, something like that, maybe. Or
So
maybe give it,
almost black, but with like a blue undertone.
yeah, precisely. And it might be good to like just take this away once in a while so I can see like, okay,
What's
what's
happening?
it? Yeah, because now it's, maybe I should even put this to multiply to just not make it lighter than it really is. Anyway, so this is another tool that I find very useful. If you push W, you can just scale in between like this, and you get like a, and
Gradient.
if you,
Wow.
a gradient, yeah, but I don't ever use gradients that aren't grainy. So instead of a gradient, I can choose a number of steps, like one step, and then I get, as you can see here, like a,
You get like the individual swatches.
precisely.
Nice.
Precisely. And then I want to, let's see. I want to expand the appearance of these, and then I can add them all.
I love
So
seeing
I've got
Illustrator in Swedish.
Yeah, sorry about
fun.
that. I'll
No,
try
it's
to
fun.
sort of, translate it as best as I can.
Sounds good. I'm sure also if you follow the same steps, you should be able to get to the same place in any language.
Exactly. So anyway, now I'm gonna start. Like I have these, the shoe is made up of like these three shapes, and I also use a lot. I don't even know the short. Let's see, the hotkeys. It's like, yeah, if you command Shift 9, you bring something to the front, and if you push 0, you bring it to the back.
Perfect.
And yeah, this I do all the time to just make sure everything is sort of layered the way it's supposed to. And then at this point, maybe I'll hit Shift D 2 times, and then I get like the draw inside mode.
Oh, wow. Okay. Shift D 2 times.
Yeah, because if you push Shift and D, you shift between like drawing on top and drawing behind and drawing inside of a shape. And now I want to draw inside of a shape because I want to start.
That's so neat.
Giving this shoe a little bit more.
I would definitely just be using clipping masks and then getting all lost in my clipping masks. This is a really handy way to do that.
I do that a lot too.
Yeah.
I always get lost with it. I don't think I get lost. I just end up clicking a lot to get where I want. I know where I'm gonna go, but it takes a bunch of
clicks because you also sometimes you like group things in a way you didn't remember, and now you have to undo it. You know, it's fun. It's the fun part of working in Illustrator.
But I still love that. It's also like yeah, it is. And I don't know, it's something with the ability to always be able to go back and change that has a huge appeal for me.
Yes, especially compared to analog, like traditional mediums, right?
For sure. So now I want to start bringing in some
pink.
Maybe I'm gonna do a new group for the more colorful parts of what I'm doing.
I feel like you're so organized with your swatches. Usually, I just have like swatches on my canvas that I made, and I never put them into the proper swatches. And I'm like, I'm all disorganized while I'm creating. And I love seeing when someone is really methodical like this, because it just makes so much sense. And it's like showing me the light, like, oh, this is how you should do it.
I'm happy you feel that way. But I guess it's because the swatches, they're very, I don't know, they're sort of fundamental, I feel, for the way I work, because
yes,
I only use a couple of colors, so I want to make sure I have them easily to access them easily, because I changed them so much, and that's, if I think I already did that, but you know, because they are global, if I down the line I feel, oh, this green wasn't that good, but I've used that green a ton of times for, you know, different shapes of this shoe or of other objects in this picture, I can just double click it. Usually I go here to NMI because then I can just.
Ooh, okay. You're like adjusting that color.
Exactly. And then it changes across all instances where I've used it. So that's very
Ooh,
nice.
I can't wait to see that once we have more elements. But wow, I have not used that, obviously, because I have just put all my colors everywhere and seeing what happens. But I can definitely see how that's extremely handy, especially when you're working on something so elaborate and with so many layers, right? Going in and adjusting each one is too much time.
Definitely. Definitely. And I mean, there is also, I'm just, you know, this is also, I'm just sort of fine tuning where I want my vectors to go. Another way to change all the colors, you can just select everything and go to edit colors, edit drawing maybe, or recolor drawing. I'm not sure what it's.
I think it's probably recolor artwork.
Recolor artwork. That sounds familiar. Yeah. And then you get like this as well. But I prefer doing it
through there.
With
I've done it the other way, the recolor artwork way. I haven't done it the global way. So, ooh, that's really handy, and I can't wait to use that. I want to ask the chat if you have used. Let us know if you've used the global settings, the global color settings, or the recolor artwork. I'm just curious to see how many of you guys have actually tried it for yourself.
It was a friend of mine who showed me the global colors. For me, it was
changed
a really
your life.
It did change. Yeah, it saved me a ton of time.
Yes, and now you're changing lives today on the stream.
I want to pass that on, that awesome sensation that I got.
Exactly. Okay, so while you continue working on this shoe, I have an amazing question here from the chat, from Anna Pears Brack.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure how you say it, but I'm doing my best.
Hi, Anna.
How do you come up with your color palettes? Which was also a question I was curious about, since I know I've looked at your work and you have such amazing, vibrant colors.
That's a good question. I mean, I would love to say that I had some sort of method for this, but I just go with my gut feeling. And since I use global colors, I can just change it a million times until I think it's perfect. I guess that's how I do it. But
okay,
usually I like to have like distinct, clearly separated colors, I guess. So I'm just
I feel like you also use a lot of like just really vivid colors, right? Like you're not working all in pastel. You have like really high contrast, bright colors, which I think contribute to how much your work like pops off the screen.
Yeah, I think it's also because I never, but I don't usually use outlines. So
yeah, you don't. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, so I sort of have to have colors that have a lot of contrast between them. Because if I didn't,
then you like mess up the form.
Exactly. So it has to be like they have to be super distinct. And usually also I try to find colors that I can sort of mix together, or where I can like use the same shading color for the other colors. I having like a
complementary.
Yeah. Sorry.
Nice. No, you're doing a lot. You're drawing, you're talking, you're explaining your whole method to us. So no problem.
If I would be talking Swedish, I would make myself clear without any problem whatsoever.
Don't even worry about it. I'm here to help you. We have this question here from Enlightened Swami. So the question is like, how are you drawing and it's clipping? I know you already explained it. Maybe you can re-explain for anyone who missed it.
Like clipping masks?
Like how you're drawing within the shape.
Yeah, I just push Shift D. Let's see, I can try it now. Like you can see, like here, it's where you see now. This means that I'm drawing in front, and then I push Shift D, and then the square pops behind the circle, so that means I'm drawing behind.
Okay.
And then I push it again, and then you can see that the square is
cut,
and you get these sort of dashed lines also.
Perfect. So that's how you're clipping, like how you're drawing without having to use the clipping mask.
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect.
Even though I do that as well, use clipping masks, that is.
Yeah. But this I feel like contains it a little bit more neat, at least in this phase, right?
I think so too. It's at least, yeah, it's more, for me, it's more intuitive.
Yeah.
And if you do now I'm going to do another thing. I'm going to shift to the brush, but I'm going to push Alt to just smooth out that. That's another nifty little trick that I use a lot.
And you're still drawing inside of that shape.
Yeah, precisely.
Perfect.
Now I'm going to jump out, and now we are back here. I don't know if I'm going to continue to build this, because there's more shapes.
We have a lot of shapes. We have a lot of shapes in this sketch.
To be honest, I really hate drawing sneakers. They are so difficult.
It is so hard. Sneakers, horses, and cars, and bicycles.
Yeah,
bicycles. All really
actually
hard.
I think I feel such a satisfaction that bicycles are now sort of, I can draw a bicycle.
I think
from scratch, from my head. But cars, horses, and sneakers, impossible still. One day,
bicycles. That's a really big accomplishment, to be able to draw a bicycle from your head.
Yeah, isn't it?
I do think so. I think that's like when you know you reached a level, and I guess maybe sneaker will be the highest level.
I don't know. I can't even imagine. But one day, hopefully,
It's like the shape of the arch of the foot really throws the perspective.
For sure. But at the same time, sneakers are super fun because there's so much interesting stuff going on. So I'm thinking I'm just gonna, normally I think I would do all of the stuff that I've sort of have in my sketch here. Make all the shapes, all the elements, the easy, right? Yeah, all the elements, the clean shapes. But I'm thinking I'm just to vary this a bit. I'm gonna do a pattern for this part of the shoe.
Oh, cool! Yes.
And then I really love old Memphis, postmodern Memphis design patterns.
Yes.
So
cool.
I'm gonna do something sort of maybe slightly inspired by Memphis
inspired.
Yes.
Perfect.
I'm just gonna see if I can draw a bunch of shapes like
and
this.
What tool are you using to draw this?
This is now the pencil tool.
Pencil tool.
Yeah.
We just had a question here.
This one.
We just had a question if you had tried using the pencil tool. And so there's your answer, Carol. Yes.
I love the pencil tool. Also, it took me a while to figure out what the point of the pencil tool is, but I think it's very handy. And if you push enter, you can make it super precise or very smooth.
Oh, that's really handy for when your hand's a little shaky.
I drink humongous amounts of coffee, so my hands are always very shaky.
And are you using a mouse or a tablet, or what are you using to draw right now?
It's a tablet. It's a very small one, actually.
Cool.
Because even when I draw by hand, I just stick within a very small
A paper.
yes, A4 size maximum. That's
Got it. Okay, cool. I love it. I feel like everyone always on every stream, they want to know what tools you're using. So that's why I always have to ask. There's always somebody who's like, what are you using? So there you go, guys. He's using a tablet.
I am. And I don't think my way of working, I wouldn't really need you know, like a Cintiq, because obviously I've been thinking about like maybe I should get that. And I guess it would be nice in many ways, but at the same time I feel I don't really need it, because I just,
it's not a must.
No,
but it could be nice.
Yeah, it might be nice. So maybe I should do it anyway, just because it being nice. But I don't feel I need it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this might be. Oh, sorry.
I like this little pattern. It's very cute. It's like cow print, modern cow print.
Yeah, exactly. If a Memphis cow print.
A Memphis
that's
cow
the
print.
best. The best kind. So I'll go to object and pattern and make pattern, and then I get it like this. And now it looks a bit weird. So maybe I'll use this. This is where you set the measurements of the bounding box, maybe it's called, of the pattern. And then I want to do like half drop repeat, which that means, well, you can see like the way how
it's like
Illustrator
staggered.
will, how the pattern will be repeated. And I always like to have a
staggered, like
a staggered, because it makes the repetition less obvious.
I like it. I love using this pattern maker. I think it's so cool. It feels like magic every time.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, I was really into like I mentioned, we had a screen printing workshop at the art school where I studied. And you could also print textile patterns. And at that time, I was really into making like these patterns from scratch, not computer aided. But this is easier.
Yeah, by far.
Definitely.
By far. It is mesmerizing watching these. Watching you make these and seeing them like duplicate instantly. I feel like I'm in a trance. I think it's kind of reminding me of the, what's it called, the psychologist blobs.
Rorschach.
Yes.
Or something like that.
Yes. It's like that, but in a trance, because it's infinite. I love
Sometimes you can also, let's see, you can change the opacity. So sometimes you get lost to like, what is the stuff
where
that
am I?
where am I? What am I drawing? And what is Illustrator drawing for me? But okay, so maybe like that.
That looks great. I feel like I really can't tell where it starts and stopped.
And then I'm gonna do what I always do. I'm inside of this shape again, and just doing a square and just filling it up with that pattern.
Perfect, because that pattern became a swatch.
Yes.
I love it. That is so easy. Like, it just feels so organized and seamless.
And hopefully, I think if I double click this, the dark color, because I used that dark color in the pattern swatch, the pattern changes. Oh, but that is sort of nice. Like a bit more saturation to it, maybe. Okay, like that. So now the pattern has changed as well.
Nice. That's so cool. That way you don't have to then like make edits to multiple swatches, even if the swatch is a pattern. So cool.
Yes.
Working so fast.
And now I'm also a bit slower than I usually am, because
you're live.
Yes, I'm trying to make sense when I tell you guys about this. Okay, and now I'm just like continuing with the sole of the shoe, because I feel like this is the outer sole, or like the whatever you call it, like that part of the shoe
The bottom sole, right?
The bottom part.
The most bottom one.
Yes.
We're not very technical. If there's any shoemakers in the chat, let us know.
I would love to hear
the technical terms.
The technical term for this. But I mean, I do this a lot, like just tweak the vector points, going back and forth, trying to, find a...
Because like you said, you don't have any lines. So really creating that perfect form becomes really, really critical.
Yes, exactly. The forms are critical and the colors are critical. This is another way I mean, when this update came to Illustrator, the live corners, oh my God. That was also such a huge relief.
It feels so good. Yeah,
it does.
It is a relief.
Okay, I'm just want to show you guys another thing, because at this point I might feel tempted to start adding in details, even though I haven't really finished with a basic layout. So I'm gonna show you guys how I do one of the kinds of patterns that I like to play around with.
Oh, I'm excited. I feel like every illustrator does this, where you just get really excited about where you are with the drawing. So you just want to continue doing it. You don't want to start over on another shape.
For sure.
You want to just see how this goes.
For sure. But I'm gonna make a pattern for the middle part of the sole, I guess.
Let's do it.
We still don't have any shoemakers in the chat.
We don't have any shoemakers in the chat, but maybe I can find out.
Now I'm like hovering over the Photoshop icon here. This is the only time that I venture into Photoshop, actually, during my illustration process, basically. Except for like when I scan the sketches, I clean them up a bit in Photoshop and adjust the contrast and such. But apart from that, it's just...
Okay, so now we're venturing into Photoshop. I want to let you know, Gustaf, that the part that you're illustrating for is called the midsole.
The midsole, cool.
And the part that you were doing before is called the outsole.
Ah, the outsole, cool. So I'm going for the midsole now.
Yes.
And I want to make a texture. So I'm gonna see where I put this. Yeah, I put it here. Here it is.
Okay.
So this is another thing about my process that I like. I'm on the lookout for just interesting textures. In my actual lives. Yeah, so this is from a playground. It's like a damping rubber material underneath a swing or something.
It's like the floor, the mat or something.
Yeah. So if I see something that sort of catches my eye and I think, this might come in handy sometime in some project, this sort of texture, I'll just snap a photo of it.
Perfect. That's so fun and much more interesting than just like Googling for textures.
Yeah. I feel like it's
more unique.
Exactly, because since this is such a big part of the way I work, it feels better if it's just something that I am personal. I have sort of control over the whole process, and it's also fun. I used to be a lot into photography when I was younger, so this is sort of a small way to keep that interest up. Yeah.
That's nice. So what did you just open? I'm curious.
So this is just a picture I snapped from that playground, and then I'm gonna use a threshold layer.
Okay.
So this is where I sort of can adjust it for a bit. So
trying to decide like how much texture you want.
Precisely.
Okay.
So maybe I don't want that much texture. Maybe I just want like this. And if I want to even it out, like the bottom here is a bit darker than the upper corner, I might, let's see where I have that one. Here it is. Oh, I have to jump to the...
Which tool is that? I'm curious.
This is the burn. I think it's called the burn tool. Yeah.
Got it.
So if I take away the threshold layer, this tool, it just, if you can see, it darkens the image. So if I want to bring out more detail where the photo is a bit lighter, I just use that one.
To try to, okay, so you're basically
sort of
editing the photo so that when you do the threshold, it's more even.
Exactly.
Perfect. That's really, really cool.
So something like that maybe. And
yeah,
then
that looks pretty good.
I'll go to image and I'll go to grayscale and I'll just throw away all my layers and everything that I've done. And then go to
no regrets.
No regrets whatsoever. So I go to bitmap and basically I just click OK. So cool. Now this is just black and white, and I can save it.
I'm so excited to see how this all works together.
So I save it as a tiff.
Tiff
image, and just
save.
That's good. Then I go here, and then I go inside again, the layer, the midsole layer.
Yes.
And I'll just paste.
Okay.
I'll just paste. Where did I put it? I put it here.
Right there. Yes.
This one. Okay. So I get the little icon or a little thumbnail preview of it. I can just put it there.
Nice. And because you're working already inside that shape, it only goes into there. That's really cool.
And now the reason why I go to all of this trouble,
I want to know, because I feel like, I need to know what the payoff is here. Not that was too much work, because that was reasonable amount of work, but I feel like right now the magic is about to happen.
So yes, because as I've been talking a lot about my colors, and I want to keep control of my colors because I'm super into that, keeping that reduced grayscale.
Because you're a control freak? I'm kidding.
Because I am a manic control freak. That's
for your colors.
The way it is.
Yeah.
Yes, for my colors.
Your colors.
For my colors, but because I don't want to use playing around with opacity or multiply or overlay. For those who are familiar with Photoshop, we have the same stuff here. So I could, making a texture, I could also maybe I'll just put multiply and change the opacity for a bit.
Right.
But I don't want to do that.
Okay. You're a purist.
Yes, I'm a purist. So I want to be able to just click a swatch and then the pattern will get that same.
And it's the same exact color, right?
Yes.
That is so satisfying.
It's very satisfying.
You're not having to get it kind of close or do it in Photoshop and then bring it in. And then you can't edit it if you decide to edit it. So this is so smart, and I'm so excited to try this out myself. In the chat, let us know if you've tried this before, if you've done this before. I definitely haven't, but this is so cool.
So, now this isn't vector art anymore because this is a pixeled image, but it's sort of somewhat akin to vector art in the sense that it's super, it's just the one tone.
Yeah.
And the rest is transparent. So it's very
you can change the color.
Or.
Yeah. So it's somewhere in between almost.
Yeah, exactly. It's somewhere in between. And of course I could if I save this TIFF image in a high resolution, it would be smoother.
Right.
As well.
Right.
I'll still one of the benefits, of course, with vector art is that it's infinitely scalable. So this sort of puts a little dent in that perfect scalability. Yeah, it limits me a bit. But at the same time, I feel this is also sort of a part of how my artworks look, having this quality. So I'm not super...
You feel like it's a good trade-off, right? Because you gain texture for the cost of maybe not making it a billboard, but it still can be made pretty big, probably.
Yeah, and it could be made a billboard because probably people wouldn't be standing 1 foot away from the billboard. So I think the relationship between like detail and or like pixelation
Scale.
is still scale is still it's still okay.
I love that. That is so cool. And do you usually like use really high res photos, or because you work usually for like screens, do you feel like you can get away with a lot in terms of resolution?
I usually use photos that I snap with my iPhone, and I have a really old iPhone, so it's not like super high res.
You're not doing 4K?
No, I'm not doing 4K, but it's also like, because you don't need that much resolution anyway, because you throw away almost all of the, you reduce it to just black and white, and I'm sort of, it's not the super detail I'm after. It's more the overall feel and look of the pattern that I'm after. So
right, it's pretty abstracted the way you use it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna do another texturing thing that's really this is, I feel sometimes like I'm a madman for
just trying to figure out ways to get more texture.
But I could do it in Photoshop instead. Like, dude, just do it in Photoshop. It would be super easy. But I'm like, no, I'm not gonna. I just want to stay comfy in Illustrator. I'm just not gonna. But it is because I want to just be able to. I don't want to pass a point in Illustrator where I'll take it into Photoshop, and then if I edit it in Illustrator, I'll have to do everything in Photoshop.
Breaks.
Everything breaks. No, I don't want that to happen, because I always want to be able to go back and forth and just. So I feel like a sculptor sometimes, like kneading what I'm doing like into the proper shape. So
do you ever embed Photoshop files into Illustrator? Because then the Photoshop's file stays editable, but then you have your main Illustrator file.
Yeah, I guess I could do that, but
I don't know why you would. You can use the tiff. That's the thing. There's like a million different ways to do everything in the Adobe apps. So you really have to find the one that works for you.
Yeah.
But, there's like a million ways to do everything. It's something that I always keep in mind when we're doing these streams. And I love seeing how people adapt. Like you said, like you want to keep everything Illustrator focused. That's how you like to work. And you've definitely figured it out.
I guess I like also the way it's sort of low tech in a way, using these TIFF files.
Yeah. Because you do strip it down to the essence of the photo.
Yeah, exactly. And it sort of, I guess it reminds me a bit of screen printing and stuff like that. And even though, I mean, the stuff I do, they don't look as like screen prints, but I like to have some of that, I don't know, some of that qualities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. I definitely see what you're doing here. And I think like you could go into Photoshop, but then you do lose, like if you have to scale it or something, then you would really be having to start from scratch if something changed.
Precisely. So it's, I guess that's why. But anyway, another thing that I wanted, I can this technique, like using the TIFF files.
Yeah.
I wanted to make like grainy gradients also, and I used the same technique to make them. I actually have like an example here, just in my CC library. This is also a TIFF file.
So interesting. Somebody just asked if you use library, so there's your answer, Bruce.
Yeah, I put the stuff that I use a lot, I put in the library.
So smart. Because then you are able to use like those textures that are uniquely yours in every single one of your pieces, and it keeps it really consistent.
Yeah, I can just drag and drop it. It's really smooth. I like that. So this is the way I went about it before. I did like a TIFF file, exactly like the same way I used with this pattern, but instead I just had like a spray texture. And sometimes I still use these for like shading if I want this grainy quality to my shading.
I like it. I feel like it's a lot because some people use a gradient, but then you don't have the texture.
Exactly, and I really want that grain.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is one way to do that, but there is a limitation to this, because I mean, if you have a composition with like a huge variety, I mean, sometimes maybe you want a huge gradient to cover like a big portion of the image. Say I want to shade this this sort of
bust.
This bust, marble bust. So if I use this shape, this tiff file, then it would be like 10 times bigger than
that grain.
Than that grain there. So this grain would be like much bigger than this grain. So that's a bit.
Yeah. The density starts to become
the density,
an issue.
Yes. So I did like a big one, a small one, but all the same, it was a bit. I ran into problems.
Just trying to get them to be similar, to be consistent.
Yes. So I started to think of a way, like how can I do that and without running into that problem, because I really liked using these grainy
tiff
effects.
Files. Yeah.
Yes, the tiff files. But actually, I managed to figure out a way to do it using the built-in effects that are in Illustrator.
Ooh, okay. Tell us.
Yes. So now I'm gonna do like just the normal gradient, like this.
Okay.
And that's
radial.
Let's see. I want it to be just
using your colors.
Black and white, and and this is why I saved the 100% white and the 100% black. It's
all coming together, you guys.
So then I have a gradient.
Okay.
And I mean, you could argue that I could use this gradient if I wanted to use this for shading. I mean, I could have, just sort of, I don't know, if I wanted to shade this part here, I could just move it here, multiply it, set an opacity that works, and just
use that.
But then there aren't grain.
Too smooth.
It's too smooth for me. I don't know why this is, but I really like that grainy quality. So to get that, I'm gonna.
So you are not satisfied. You found a different way to do it. I like this.
I mean, it's not that
thinking.
It's not that there are tons of illustrators using like super smooth gradients, and that can be so awesome. It's just not my way of doing it. So I do appreciate when other people excel at it, and they can make stunning artwork, but it's just not, it's not the way I want it.
Yeah, it wasn't hitting like your vision. Yeah.
Exactly. So then I'll go to the effect gallery.
Okay.
And because I was like, at some point or another, I was browsing around like, oh, effect gallery, what's this? And then so I realized that Illustrator has also like pixel-based effects.
Okay, perfect. I feel like we're getting there.
Yeah. So you have them here. You can use a lot. There are different ways, but there had this grainy effect that,
That was it. It was it for you.
Yes, but
so you apply it. Okay.
Yeah, but the problem is still I can't use this without, at this point I can't use it the way I want, because I want like the shading part of the whole thing. I want to be able to change that. I want it to be the exact hue that I want it to be. Yes. So because of that, I'll have to like make another shape. I can even I'll just like draw a circle behind this grain, like make it.
Okay, I see it. I'm like, so right now you put another circle behind that circle, am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
Only the problem is, this happens to me a lot. I forgot that I'm actually inside of this shape. That's where
we have a lot of shapes happening, guys. It's bound to happen.
All right, there it is. This is another
Okay.
thing I use a lot, like copy into place, paste into place, like putting it at the same
Exact
exact
spot.
spot. Yeah.
I
So
think that's
then,
Shift Command V for anyone wondering.
exactly. That sounds right. I don't even. My fingers just flop around on the keyboard doing stuff, but I think that's it. Anyway, now I have this the shading the shading color that I want, and I just put it behind this little thing that I've just created, and then I'll go to, let's see. Oh no, here it is. It's if you use this, like where you find the opacity and the blending mode. That's where you find make opacity mask.
Okay, make opacity mask. Oh, wow.
So the grainy gradient shape is now working as an opacity mask for just the round shape that I did underneath it, meaning the whites in the opacity mask lets like the color through. Yeah. But the blacks just get transparent.
So this smart. I feel like whenever you discovered this, it must have been such an exciting day. Right? You were like at your computer, you're like
so now finally I can do the grainy shading thing.
And does it scale the way you want?
Yes, it does scale. So
it stays like the same grain no matter how big you make it?
Yes, it does.
That's amazing.
That's the beauty of it.
So that's why you need to do this process.
I can just do it like this, and then
wow,
the size of the grain is still the same.
That's super cool. I feel like, yeah, that really is going to help you make sure that all the grain is consistent versus just like maybe consistent, because you can eyeball it, but in your heart it's not maybe the same.
Did I say that I'm something of a control freak?
I think I might have labeled you that earlier.
I can, and now I can even go in and edit the actual mask. So if I want like if I want it to be
like a little more harsher,
exactly, I can just fix that right here.
Or make it lighter. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So that's not nice. And this is for sure. I just have to remember, like now I'm stuck in opacity mask mode.
Right.
So so I can edit this mask, but say I want to like export this, then it will look like this. So if I want to save a preview of it, that's because I'm in opacity mask mode. So I'll just have to click back into the normal world, not the upside down world of Illustrator. Of opacity masks. And another neat,
that's so handy.
It is very handy. I really like these simple shapes, really. I mean, I use this so much, I have like basically just this one tucked inside of my CC library as well, and I just drag and drop it all the time. So I want to make a shade here. I can just use this one. Now it doesn't look very nice, but I can just tone it down.
Right.
And I can just, because this doesn't change the quality of the grain. It just the grain is still the same size. So
right, it almost becomes like a fully vector grain that you can use. That is so cool. And I feel like I was gonna ask you, like, do you copy and paste it, but you just grab it from the library now?
Yeah,
that's even smarter, because I was like, oh, I thought maybe you kept one like on the side that you would drag in every time you need, but I should have known better, because you have a very methodical system going on here.
Somewhat, at least. Somewhat it is, yeah.
It feels
the things
very
I use
methodical.
a lot, I do it. Yeah, I guess. I mean, it makes the workflow a bit smoother. And another great thing is like this. Now this grain is pretty, you know, compared. You can
Pixely?
compare this, yeah, this like the quality of the TIFF file
Yeah.
is like the pixels here are a lot smaller than the grainy pixels. But since this is Illustrator, I can fix that because I can go to like I don't know what this is called in English, but it's you find it under the Effect menu, and it's like settings for
distort and transform. No, I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out the word. Let me see.
It's the third one from the top.
The third one from the top. If anyone in the chat knows what that one is, let us know. Okay.
Anyway, it's, I mean, if you have it's pretty self-explanatory, the name, even though I don't know it in English, but so I can change the resolution of these effects. So if this is like a 72 PPI and this is 150. So I can just change that, and then you see the grain turns, you see from there.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it got like a lot smoother.
Yeah. So I can, you know, I can go there and just, I can also change it for, because this is not for printing reasons, it's just for the aesthetics of it. So I can just type in, maybe I want something in between 72 and 150. I can type in 100 instead.
Oh, that's so nice. I think somebody in the chat said it's the document raster setting, maybe?
Yes, that sounds, yeah, that's the one.
Thank you. RB, thank you for document raster setting. Super appreciate it. That is so cool, Gustaf. I'm like in shock that you really thought it all the way through, from like how to work it into the document itself, the file, and you know how to export it in the perfect way.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, it's, I mean, it's the first time I did it, it was really like
best day ever.
Yeah, but also like, what am I doing? Is this even a legit way to handle Illustrator?
You have like
or what am I doing?
Yeah.
But I really like the way, you know, the way it looks. And
but you've been using it for a while now too, right?
I have, but I mean, I went from actually having like vectorized grains.
Yeah.
That were super heavy.
Yeah.
Because there were so many vector points to make it look right.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, I can show you in my portfolio because it still has sort of the same aesthetic as what I'm doing now, but the technique was
different.
Yes, this project here. So these were like different like food items.
Okay.
For a client in Sweden.
Can you zoom in a little so we can see the texture that you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Does it show okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so these textures were all vectorized.
Got it. Okay. So each one of those were vector points and everything. Yeah, that's very similar on the corn. It's kind of similar to what you're doing today.
Yes, it is. But they so heavy to work on.
Yeah.
So like when they were nearly finished, and I got like, oh, but can you change the, I don't know, the placement of this leaf here on the pear? I would like click the arrow button and the computer had to like think for far too long before anything happened. So that's why I really like the way it looks, but I need to have a
make it a little lighter. Yeah,
make it lighter. And that's like the TIFF files are pretty lightweight. And these raster effects in Illustrator are, I mean, compared to actual having like this much detail in vector points, they're also pretty lightweight.
Yeah, that's really smart too, because sometimes, you know, even though it's possible, like you were doing it before to work in vector, it's just not convenient when you're adding so many levels of shading and stuff. So I think it's really smart that you figured out this way that kind of worked better for your workflow. And I think it also works, like it does. I know what you mean, like the Illustrator files get too big and then they become clunky to work with if you're not careful, or if you have too many artboards, or, you know, just depending on how you do it. Yeah, so this is a really cool way to kind of work around that but still get the same effect.
Precisely, because I really liked, like I didn't want to let it go.
Right. And you didn't want to go to Photoshop because of you losing too many other things.
Yes, precisely. I mean, I used to, like, way back in the day, I was only in Photoshop, and I was like scared of Illustrator because I thought Illustrator was so sort of felt a lot more technical, I guess, than Photoshop. And Photoshop for me felt super intuitive. But at some point I needed to start working I think I used to work with some friends of mine that were running a animation studio, and I did you know, like background designs and character designs for them. And then it became very convenient for them that I got into Illustrator. And from there I guess I just kept going sort of with that.
I think it's really key when you start thinking about animation. Just Illustrator pairs so nicely with things like After Effects and Premiere Pro and all of that it becomes really essential to use Illustrator. So for you to have found a way to keep that texture and still be in Illustrator files that become like more simple to animate is really, really smart. And hopefully anyone here who's been I mean, if you're tuning in, you're watching Gustaf. He's showing us how to add textures in Adobe Illustrator. You're here for this, but you're here for this because it's also going to make a lot of your workflow easier, especially if you're interested in animation. You have a ton of animation work in your portfolio too.
I do. I do have to, though. When I animate pieces, I have to like scale away these textures, though. And then add them in. Maybe to a lesser extent, though, in After Effects, but more carefully. When I'm in Illustrator and doing something that's not going to be animated, I'll just throw
layer it on, layer after layer and layer.
But with animation, I have to be a bit more careful not to overload it and make it super complicated to animate. So, but it still feels nice to, like, Illustrator is still my, you know, I have everything there, so I can just.
And you keep it super editable too, the way that you're working with the global colors. It makes so much sense. This is a little reminder for everyone, if you're just joining us here with Gustaf. Remember, you can drop questions in the chat. Bring us your questions. Gustaf will answer them. And remember, if you miss anything while we're here chatting, you can always catch the replays, even when we're offline, on YouTube or Behance. So be sure to hit subscribe on our new Adobe Live YouTube channel so you don't miss the replays. But you can always catch it again. If you miss something that Gustaf goes over, don't worry, you can watch it again. But in the meantime, bring us your questions so you get some custom feedback here. Okay, Gustaf, what's next? I feel like you've already blown everyone's mind. You've blown my mind. But I'm just like, what else could Gustaf show us in the next hour?
Well, I'm just, at this point, I think I'm just, you know, usually I just throw stuff in there. I have on my hard drive, I have a folder with a lot of different textures that I've, you know, made, and just keep there, and I just browse through them and see, like, what sort of textures do I want here. That's like fun. Maybe for this pattern, I want something to sort of mess it up a bit. So I have some of them here in the library, and I can just throw it over there and maybe, you know, give it more sort of the sense that it's a bit worn, maybe, like this.
So lovely.
Or
it's a really like fun way to play with texture, to just drop it in and see like how it fits and play with the scale, as opposed to being like perfect with it.
Exactly. I love that. Just sort of, yeah, I don't have like a super clear vision before I start. I usually go about it like just trying out, like for example, like maybe I want to add some more light here. Yeah, so I'll just throw in another grainy shape there to sort of make the where your heel would be placed more visible. And maybe like, oh, maybe here I need to have some shading as well, like so, or maybe put it just to create sort of volume and definition. Yes, sort of play with the light, but still, I don't know, there's something with the like still keeping a graphic quality to it that I really like, but at the same time just being able to play with the sort of the
textures,
and the texture form. And the form, and sort of have more graphic elements next to elements that I've worked a bit more to give like depth and definition. And just to have that mix, I guess, is something that I enjoy.
I think it's really cool to have like the contrast of the super graphic style with the texture, right? Because like that texture does add a really interesting element of contrast to like our eye as we infer the image, as opposed to if it was all flat, right? It would be different.
Let's see. So yeah, I just go, but I just sort of usually I don't really beforehand know exactly how I want everything to be placed. I sort of just do it a bit, explore it, and play around with it and see like what works and what doesn't work. So for example, I like the way like adding a shade here, making the shade of the shoe just, you know, bleed into the background sort of.
Yeah.
For some reason, I really like playing around with that, like using highlights and shadow
to play with like the background and the foreground.
Precisely.
Cool. I have a question here from Bruce Gonzalez. What size artboard did Gustaf start with again, PPI wise?
Sorry, what?
So I think it's the size of the artboard, maybe?
Oh, yeah. Because it's Illustrator, I'm usually pretty sloppy with that. I just sort of maybe I start with like you know what I find to be like a average sort of size, but maybe 2,500 pixels wide and 2,000 high or something like that. If I'm just, you know, often the client has like specific requirements, like we want these assets to be these specific sizes, and then obviously I'll
follow that.
Yeah, but if I'm doing like something just for myself, maybe I'll start with like the Instagram just 1080 times 1080, because I can always change like the resolution of the effects and the size of the artboards and everything.
What resolution do you usually start with when you work for screen?
Yeah, so I mean for this, in this artboard I started with 72, but then because I want the raster effects to be a bit like more detailed, I changed that to 100.
Got it.
And then I can change it to even to make them even more detailed. But when I export it, the end piece will be 72 PPI. But the effects in the document can be higher or lower or.
Interesting. So there you go, Bruce. I hope that answers your question. It's very interesting to see how you're working with like different resolutions within a file and exporting them, but I think it makes sense. And it also comes with practice, like practicing how to export depending on the look that you're after.
Yeah, exactly. I guess you get sort of a sense of what's, but that's all. I guess that's and I guess I'm a bit sloppy with that, because there's also that security that like I'm an illustrator, I'm not as dependent on resolution as in if I would have been in Photoshop or something.
Yeah, because in Photoshop you want to be really careful when you start. But here you have some flexibility built in, so that's another convenient factor of working with textures within Illustrator.
Yeah.
So what's going on? What are you doing now? I'm like,
yeah, now
what is this? You're trying to be casual.
What's happening?
But I want to know.
Yeah, I'm making a brush now. It's calligraphic brush, it's called. And this is for making the shoelaces. So
sweet.
Because shoelaces look the way they do, I think it's an easy way to do it using a brush, like having this sort of shoelace shape.
Yeah, because it's almost like a ribbon.
Exactly, because I mean I could trace them, but I could also just have that, you know, be a bit more
organic or handmade.
Organic, exactly, and just maybe like maybe change the 2.5 points. Yeah, like so. So I sort of often I like to work that way, sort of be a bit in between the controlled and the and not having control, like doing some stuff more like freehand and some stuff like super controlled with a pen tool.
Right. I think it makes sense because like you're doing the similar thing with the shading and the shapes. Like the shapes are so precise and sharp, and then you're adding this texture. And the same with this, like, you know, it's freehand, but it's still vector, so you have a lot of control.
Yeah. I guess it's just also this, I've been working sort of like that. Now I'm adding like more colors. Maybe I should brighten it up a bit. make it pop.
Make it pop, please.
Yeah, but even when I was like a kid, I used the eraser so much when I was drawing. I just like, you know, and this is me doing that, but without having to use an actual eraser. Just use
you just can edit.
Yeah, I can just edit it and keep on editing it for basically as long as I want. And another, just doing with the brush tool here. That's just like with the pencil tool, I can, you know, choose if I want it smooth or if I want it not so smooth. And most often I want it smooth, but sometimes I really, you know, I really want to
play with it.
Want it to show like all the
handmade feel,
the nervous, yeah, if I want some sort of a nervous feel, or, you know, when I'm doing clouds, I really like going for the super precise to just, you know, to get sort of a
true, like, get all the little details as opposed to having a perfectly round cloud.
Yeah, now that's an inverted cloud. Now that's you know, if this would have been like the horizon of an image and these are the clouds, I would want them to be very detailed rather than just, I mean, this is also cartoony. A look I could go for, but yeah, I like the nervy clouds.
Yeah, using like the handmade feel to go along with the image makes sense, as opposed to like fighting it. You know, if you need it to look precise, you can, or if you want to convey something with a little more detail, a little bit more roughness, just let yourself do it. That's really a fun way to go about it.
So now I'm sort of getting to a stage of the sneaker that is really a bit I don't know, stressful.
Stressful.
That is, yes, this is this is something that I can really get stuck on. That's like, you know, the shoelaces. So they should go you know, they should cross over like this, but then they're also going like in under. So,
so then you'd have to put it below the one shape.
Yeah, so and for this, I think, okay, I have to think about how this is going like this, and then there would actually be like, I would have to jump into this shape here to make that shoelace go behind the one on top. I'm gonna make it.
I love seeing the thinking here, because there is so many layers, literally layers that you have to
like
think through.
this. Yeah, and then then this lace would come up here. So then maybe now I'll shift to
Above,
the
yeah.
not using the brush tool anymore, but rather the pen tool. Let's see, but I can still, even though I didn't draw that vector by hand, I can still change it to have the same properties as the ones.
Yeah.
I can add a brush stroke instead. So I want this to go over and then under. So
Right, like a real laced up shoe.
yes, and this is a bit tricky. So here I think I would like use the scissor tool and cut it off like that.
Right.
And then copy that piece. Oh. Like so. And then jump into this layer that is actually underneath, and just, so then that would be like the shaded part of this layer.
Okay, I wasn't sure what you were thinking here, but now, yeah, you need that little shading to convey that it went under.
Precisely. And
Smart. I feel like it's like mathematical almost. Oh, but now you're just copy and pasting.
Exactly. And so now I have this lace is already placed in a good way, so I can just drag it to go under the rest of the.
You guys, it's very, very smart here.
So I'm like, so it gets.
What's like the most complicated shape or object you've drawn? Would it be a shoe? Because I feel like this does require a lot of like imaging, like in your mind, remembering.
Yeah, I think this is like one of the most, like, the playing around the shoelaces. That's like the most. It doesn't get that much more complicated for me, I think.
Maybe if it was like a ballet slipper, then maybe it would be even more complicated, because you have.
But it's also but it's also like some complicated things you can easily simplify without the viewer, feeling sort of like seeing through it and like, oh, that doesn't add up. But like if I want to draw a sneaker and I want the shoelaces to be shoelacy, like in this fashion, like having this, somewhat naturalistic view of it, then I can't like cheat with the shoelaces. I have to do them properly. So I almost have to think like, okay, so this one is going down here, then up here, and there, and then behind, and then there.
You have to like pretend that you're lacing it yourself.
Yes. Okay, so it seems to make sense. But I mean, then I can just go on forever and like, so maybe these shading parts, I will group them, and then I'll duplicate them and just sort of to give it a bit of shading underneath as well. And I mean, this I can do like, this is where it starts to take time,
Right, now you have to make those decisions.
Yeah, like what level of detail am I going for here?
Because in a real, right now we're kind of in a 2-hour focused mode of work, but in a real piece you have a lot of elements on the page, and you have to figure out how much detail you can do for all of them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you like to get them to the same level of detail, I'm assuming. Yeah. Okay.
Precisely, and that's like that's something that I guess I need to work on a bit, like keeping that broader perspective, not getting like super intense with my shoelaces, because that really happens sometimes. Like I just I just want to keep.
You just want to finish one area perfectly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I guess it has to do with and maybe it has to do with not being like 100% certain that it will look okay in the end, so I have to sort of try it out,
push it.
So now I can just mention that I expanded the appearance of this the brush here.
Okay.
So that's because I want to sort of make them a bit more irregular, I guess.
Yeah, to have them like flowing through through space a little bit more realistically.
Make them be a bit more sort of uneven. Or another thing that I use a lot is like if I have the shoelaces and I want them to be a bit rougher, there's a really nice it's called Roughen, and I mean that doesn't look super good, but if I change everything up a bit to make them more so they get
nice.
Yeah,
again, adding those little bits of texture where you can, right?
Precisely. And then this is also of course it's Illustrator, so I can also always go back and like, okay, maybe they turned out too rough. Yeah, so maybe I just want them
it is really nice like to be able to like edit infinitely.
Yeah, I love that. I mean,
it's kind of relaxing, right? You can count on being able, you don't have to make up your mind right this second.
Precisely. I guess that's why I don't get like people that are painting oil maybe, or painting how they go about not just
I know, not being able to just swap it. Yeah,
precisely.
Yeah, I totally feel the same way. I think actually I have heard some oil painters say that because oil takes so long to dry, it's very forgivable for a while. But I prefer being able to recolor the artwork.
Yeah, I guess maybe oil color is a bad example, but
maybe acrylic, right? It dries super fast. You'd have to manually.
Yes. Yeah.
But still, I know what you mean. I even feel that way just with pencil, just erasing, because it's never perfect.
Precisely. It freaks me out. I like this much more, just being able to go back and forth. So I usually make strokes like this as well, to like give a bit more definition to a certain area, like this part here, like I wanted to is it called a tongue? Cool.
Yes, that's like one of the few parts of the shoe that I made.
I think I'm going to do another thing, another texture thing that I like, because this part, like the back part here, usually that's in like mocha or something. Is it called mocha? Like nubuck, maybe it's called in English. I don't know. Like a bit textured skin, sort of.
Okay.
That's a bit. I don't know. What's it called? Anyway, I
don't know what it's called, but I know what you mean. That it does usually have like a separate texture.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna make it a separate texture.
Heel counter. I have like the anatomy of a shoe pulled up for us.
Awesome.
Heel counter is the proper name.
Let's see.
Heel cap.
Heel cap.
There you go.
So I'm gonna make a little scatter brush, it's called.
Ooh, okay.
So this is like a very simple form of brush, but I want there to be little dots here.
Okay.
But I want the specific quality to them. So to get that quality that I'm after, I'm going to do a brush. New brush, and I'm going to take, it's called a scatter brush.
Scatter brush.
So I just have this little thing marked, and I'm just, Illustrator is just going to duplicate that.
Right. This is like the simple version.
Yeah, the simple version. So now I'm going to go in, like, put this to, I want this a bit smaller, and I want it to be, what's it called? Like random.
Random.
Yeah, I want all this to be random, but the way it is random is up to me. Like
got it. The amount of random.
The amount of randomness.
Got it.
So that's also like, I guess that's just how I do things. I sort of invite chance, but I want to control chance as well. Like in when I work, I want to be surprised. Like, oh, that looked nice. I didn't really plan that, but
you want to have full editing capabilities.
Yeah, I guess
just in case. Yeah.
Yeah, just in case. So
that's the root of it. I think the root of your method.
Yeah, I guess that's I like chance and being surprised by like a certain like effect or a certain effect of two different textures that I haven't really planned that it would look exactly like that, but I'm like, oh, that looked really cool. But still, like,
Yes, I agree. And Jack Watson in the chat also says that they love a scatter brush, so you're not alone.
yeah, scatter brushes are super cool. Oh,
yes.
so I'm just gonna do what I always do and just jump in there, use my scatter brush. So
scribble
it, and then also I want to make sure to, I forgot about that, I want to hit the tones, like the coloring method should be, I think it's called tones. Okay. This is in Swedish, but in English I think it's tones. I guess. Because, and then I want to apply it on all my brush strokes of that quality, so then I can like
pick the perfect color.
Yes,
no problem.
And no one is surprised that that was like the end idea for me.
I love it though. I think it's so cool. I'm really excited to try some of these methods myself. I feel like I'm quick to just call it final and figure it out if I have to edit it later. But I like this method where you know that you can edit it at any time.
Yeah, because I guess I just want to, you know, I know that I'm not going to be satisfied with, I guess it's just chance. I like chance, but I want to like hit the chance button like a lot of
times. As many times
like,
as you want.
Yes, until it looks the way I want. Like, oh, I didn't like it like that, but maybe I do it in a like another way. Maybe then I will hit the mark, you know?
And I think it makes sense because if you're using Illustrator, why not be able to, why not work in this way? Because you can.
Yeah, I guess it's as simple as that. And also, you know, it happens like I go bananas with my textures and the client says like, can you just tone the textures down a bit because they're somewhat overwhelming? It has happened, you know, and then I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. I'll just, you know, maybe this was a bit too much. I'll get rid of that. Sure, no problem.
So it's still editable.
Yeah. So, but I sort of like, you know, this doesn't really look like the texture that would actually be on the heel cap.
Heel cap, yep.
We're
both learning a lot about sneakers.
Yes. So, but you know, I still sort of like the way it looked. Maybe even just make it. No, it was better like that. Okay. Never mind. I'll just stick with the way it looked at first.
I love it. It's so it definitely just has so much like dimension.
Yeah, thanks. I guess it's sort of strange, you know, choosing to work in Illustrator, but really working hard to mess everything up a lot.
I mean, I think that there's just a lot of pros with working in Illustrator.
Yeah, so. I guess. Another thing, I want to do a pattern swatch again for these. Because these are a bit too, you know, I feel they're a bit too strict.
Okay. We want to have a little fun with the laces.
Yes.
What did you just open? Strokes?
I just made them into, you know, expanded the shapes.
Got it. Okay.
Because I now want to apply a pattern for them.
Okay.
So I'm gonna do that. So then I don't want them to be like brush strokes anymore.
I get it. I'm down. Because you want to be able to apply that pattern.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So now I'm just gonna, and now I want like a sort of a raster. I'm gonna see like a raster pattern, like an old school.
I'm curious what you mean.
You'll see in a while.
Okay.
So now I have a lot of dots.
I'm observing.
And then I'll resize them.
Okay.
No, I just lost the English word, but it's like
transform.
Transform. Yeah, you can transform everything, and you can do it like, you know.
Randomly.
Randomly. So I really like that.
That's really cool. Maybe, I've never seen that.
Maybe randomly like so, and then I'll go again and use this other effect that the Roughen effect that I really like.
Roughen, okay.
So maybe now I have something that looks a bit like this, and then I can do that and head over to pattern again and make pattern. So now I have like, maybe I need
bunch of like wonky dots everywhere.
Yes, a wonky dot pattern.
Yes, it's perfect.
Going for. So some, I guess, like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Then I can just throw away the stuff that I was, but I can now. So then I get
nice. So now you applied that pattern to that object.
Precisely, but it is a bit too big. So I'll go to the transform again, but I'll transform pattern and not transform object. And I don't want it to be random this time. So I'll unclick the random button and just, so now you can see it gets a lot finer down there.
It almost looks more like comics, you know, when the comics have the dots, right?
Precisely.
Forget like from the word right now, but
old school printing, you know, that's the way if you wanted like a middle tones, that was the way you needed to do. And I mean, I guess you still do in printing, but it's so fine these days, so it's not visible like that. But I really like that aesthetic. So if I want to make shoelaces, also I think it looks a bit like the, you know, the texture, the fabric of a shoelace.
Yeah, the woven. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm thinking like this can come in handy later for other stuff as well, but for sure a shoelace, yes, also. But then I want it to be the color
that you want.
That I want. And then I think, okay, so then I can do, because I don't want these to be transparent though. The background for this pattern, because the shoelaces, I want the shoelaces to feel solid. You know, solid. Yeah. So I'll need to add but I'm gonna add a background. I can see here like the width of the bounding box for the pattern. I can just punch in those digits, and then I get a square that fits snugly there, and I just hit the Command Shift 0 to send it back. Yeah, and then I have.
All right, so you like updated the pattern.
Precisely.
Nice.
But then for the,
I really
that's
like
pretty. That's pretty nice. Or I can also like, okay, I go and I'll select same fill color, and then I get all of these, and then I'll just. But then the pattern originally was a lot bigger, so I'll have to use the eyedropper tool to make them the same size.
That's cool though. I love how you're working with pattern, like creating your own texture with the pattern tool is a really smart way to go about this too.
Yeah, because I mean I use a lot of different ways. It depends on the look I want. So for some effects, I'll go with the pattern. Or sometimes I'll just use the roughen edge effect or something. Sometimes I use these raster thingies. And also a cool thing with patterns, you know, it's like I can, if I want the shades, okay, so now they get the same color, but of course I can duplicate this one.
Okay.
And then
edit it, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and this time I'm gonna just do like edit.
Oh, recolor.
Recolor, because then I can just swap it there.
Right.
And then I didn't even need to duplicate it, because the moment that I recolored it, Illustrator created a new one for me. So I'll just throw that old one away. So then I have like two.
So cool. I feel like you definitely have this way of thinking where it's like controlled randomness.
Yeah.
Right? Like that is,
I guess that's my thing.
Yeah, it's like you want a little bit of texture and richness and wonkiness, right? With the pattern and then even the pattern of the laces, but still being able to fully edit it and
in case
at any moment. It's really smart. It's really smart.
Smart or lunacy? I don't know. Sometimes I really don't know.
Controlled chaos.
Controlled chaos, yeah. But I guess it's just the way I work. I always want to go back and forth. For example, now maybe I'm feeling like, okay, but maybe like maybe these shouldn't have the brighter tone in there. Maybe instead I should just change this, like the
square
pattern.
background.
Yeah, so it looks like this.
Could
to give
be.
it a little bit more
shadow.
Shadow, or so it's a lot of.
I can see how you're definitely like playing with the settings to see if you get the look that you're after.
Yeah, and like I can, let's see. Here is also, I'm going to show you guys this. Wait, I was in the wrong layer. If I push Alt and drag and drop, I get this. Like if I don't push Alt and drag and drop, I think I'll get it like giant, I can't edit this. But if I hold down Alt, I get it just the way, like the same way as when I created these swatches. Okay. So these are different pattern swatches also that I just
created. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna show you like one interesting thing I think with Illustrator is that you can combine like making patterns with using these bitmap tiff files. So for example, in this pattern, this pattern is actually,
I'm excited already. Okay.
It is actually, I can just so you can see, like this is actually ink brush strokes, like done with a really dry brush that I stand.
Okay.
And made like the same way that I did with the midsole of the shoe, just make a tiff image out of it. Then I made a pattern of that tiff image. So then I can just, let's see, maybe here.
I'm curious. Oh, that looks so good.
So that's pretty nice. And now, of course, if I really wanted it to be blue, I can still change it like this because it's a TIFF file. So then it just it gets like a sort of this brushed,
just like a brush stroke effect.
Yeah, like a worn feeling.
Right. Do you usually make those patterns and then you have them to use for any file, or do you keep them in the Creative Cloud like that, like in the multiple? I'm just curious why you use that versus like maybe making it a pattern swatch.
Saving the and having that like the swatches, the pattern swatches saved as like saving this whole section like with colors and swatches and stuff.
Yeah.
I guess it's just
because I feel like you have a reason why. That's why I ask.
No, I don't actually. Okay. It's just, it was, I'm making you, our viewers disappointed now that I'm not
no one's disappointed. I was just I was just curious if like maybe it didn't scale as good, or because then you can edit the way that it patterns. Maybe.
Yeah, I think it doesn't matter really if I have it, because this is actually a pattern.
A swatch, yeah.
Yeah, a swatch. So it's just.
Got it.
Yeah, and I don't even. Curious. Yeah,
it still works and it looks really great.
I think it was because I want to make a post for Insta sometime, like wanting to like, hey, these are some of the textures I use. And then I collected them all in this way, and then I just ship them off to the Creative Cloud, and then I can just.
Got it. Then you have like, they're all together as opposed to having them separate, which is kind of handy when you want to figure out which one to use.
Yeah, precisely, because I want to try them out.
Yeah.
Also, another thing, I like to do, I can also do if I can just copy that same thing and just lay it on top, just shifting it 90 degrees. And then I get like not as big. A little bit more, a bit more solid,
So neat.
I just play around like that a lot.
You have so many textures to play around with.
Yeah. Also, I have brush strokes, and these I use with a little bit more care.
Okay.
It's the same here. I just collected them, you know, in a document and put that, just copied them over.
Are they TIFF files or what?
No, these are like proper vector brushes.
Okay.
I just thought I'd show them as well. But these are quite heavy, so I use them, you know,
sparingly.
Sparingly, exactly. You see, I got the.
Yeah, maybe we have to save just to be sure. I'm not sure if we have been.
Yeah, maybe my computer will explode now.
Sometimes it happens.
Yeah, but you see, here are like some just different.
Yeah, there's so many cool ones in there. You have a lot of different options, like clean and then texture.
Yeah,
noisy.
Like for example, this one, I think that brush actually is. Oh no, that wasn't very visible because I'm gonna show you guys what I mean.
Okay. I'm
like this
watching
swatch. Okay. I think this swatch actually is the same texture that I made this brush of. Like it's the same, because this is like I was drawing on a piece of paper with ink. So when I scanned it, I used a portion of it to make this brush and a portion of it to make like this swatch instead. Because sometimes you want to be in a little bit more control. Like for example, if you have this brush, I can.
Yeah, you can be a little bit more precise, right?
Yeah. So this is let's see. I just want maybe like a light gray, and then I shift to the brush tool, and then I get this.
And then you can change like the path of it and everything.
Precisely, and the width and everything, and even I can even go here like to get it to change the, you know, the sort of the way it renders the form. So these brushes, even though they're heavy, because these are scalable,
right?
You know, these are actual.
Wow, these are vector textures. Yeah.
Yes. So they're a bit more heavy, but sometimes, you know, you really need to.
Sometimes you need it. Yeah.
To be a little bit more like, and I'm sitting a lot like this, like, no, I want it to be a bit more.
A pixel up, please. Yeah.
I'm gonna change this to 0.72 instead, because then it will snap to right where I want it, you know?
Yeah.
And be super just.
I love that you have so many different ways to add texture. We have the TIFF files, you have the gradient mask, you have the custom brushes. There's a lot happening, and then also your own patterns. It's lovely to see. I just want to give you a heads up that we have about 9 minutes left on the stream. So
all right.
Just as a little, you know, whatever last minute things you want to show. We got 9 minutes.
Is there anyone in the chat that has a question, like you wanting to see something in particular?
Let's see. Well, we can put that question out, guys. If you guys have any last minute questions, drop them in the chat. We're here with Gustaf showing us how to create amazing textures in Illustrator. So bring us your questions for the last 9 minutes. But we don't have any pending questions. We've been answering them, and I think everyone's taking it all in, all the amazing textures that you're showing us.
Yeah, I'm thinking myself, like, what do I usually do actually when I, like, patterns, TIFF files, pattern TIFF files, brushes.
Do you ever, I have a question for you. Do you ever, because everything is so editable, do you ever recolor like the entire thing? Like multiple, like recolor this entire shoe?
Yeah, sure.
I'm just curious because even the textures are editable, and I'm like, that opens a whole other world.
Usually clients go like, oh, but could you go for this sort of this color scale instead? And I'm like, yeah, no problem, because it's totally editable.
Yeah. But often, if you're working in Photoshop, you'd be like, yeah, I'll do it for you.
But so I do that. But it sometimes, you know, the result is it takes even though it's editable, it takes a lot of fine tuning to get like, you know, the contrast that I'm after.
Yeah.
If I change one tone, then usually I need to change all of the tones to keep the right balance. But I do that a lot.
Fascinating.
And I mean, I don't know. Let's see. Yeah. So maybe this should be, yeah, you know, if I can just maybe, but I have, you know, a couple of colors that I'm really.
I can already feel that you're missing the pink.
Yeah, I am missing the pink, even though I do like this one.
Yeah.
But then, you know, then I have, this doesn't, like now I have two orange that are almost the same.
It's very similar.
That's.
Oh, Gustaf, we have here a last minute question from Bruce Gonzalez. Do you do anything specific when it comes to exporting? I know you showed us before for exporting the mask gradient, but when you export a piece as a whole, do you do anything in particular there?
Not really. It depends. I guess it depends on what you want, what you're going to use it for, like the size.
Yeah.
Or the. It
comes down to the client if you're working for a client, and then if it's for yourself, you're just like,
then it
whatever. Nothing matters.
I'm just
Sorry, Bruce. Sorry, Bruce. You follow the directions from the client, or you don't follow any directions at all. Yeah.
But it is an interesting question. Because also I tend to do this sometimes. Like I have this. I mean, okay. Obviously, there are a lot of more stuff here to be drawn, but we've kept focus on the shoe.
On the shoe, yes.
But sometimes I like to let's see what happens if I scale this up.
Dun dun.
Bump. It just scales, and then I might want to have a look, like how does it look when I save it as a JPEG? Like how, because when Illustrator renders it like in real time when you're working, it's not it's sort of I think it's not showing off all of the details.
Right. So sometimes you can be unsure if it looks the way you want it to look in the final.
Precisely. But when I do it like this, if say the client wants like, oh, this is supposed to be 3209 pixels wide, then from time to time I like to export it or just have a look at it like this, just to see like how does the texture actually look in the size specified by the client.
Yeah.
Because when I look at it like this, I get a lot of more detail compared to when looking at it. Then I'd have to, like, you know, it shows up.
That way you can catch any problems earlier, right?
Yeah,
as opposed to at the end, you know, the last hour before it's due, you're running into some issues there. So
exactly, for sure.
All right.
That's good to just check from time to time that everything looks good.
Lovely.
But,
No, what were you going to say? Is there something else that you want to show us here in the last? I mean, we only have 3 minutes left here on this stream.
I'm gonna do like a TV chef thing now. I thought, like I prepared this in the oven.
Oh yes. Okay, yes, TV chef, perfect. I wasn't sure what you meant. Everyone, come if you're listening to us, come back and watch this so you can see what this final artwork.
Yeah, here it is.
If we weren't working in only 2 hours, would actually look like.
So that's like the final version.
Yes. But and the sneaker came to life.
Yeah.
It's lovely. And what was this piece for again?
This was actually this is a bit reworked for this specific occasion, but it's actually for IKEA. So they were hosting it was for a vintage shopping event actually hosted by them. So that was a lot of fun, just doing retro vintage stuff, which I love. So it was great fun.
This is so cool. I feel like I can totally see how all the different things that you shared with us today are incorporated in all these different elements, like the texture on the table, the shading on the towel and even or pillow, and also on the Walkman, the little textures. I can see how that was probably a pattern swatch. So it's just really interesting to see like the thinking and the how you actually assembled this. And I feel like everyone on the stream was able to learn. So now if you go look at Gustaf's portfolio, which everyone should go take a look at, you can kind of see exactly how he's using this technique and applying it to his work, which is fascinating. And hopefully not even hopefully, I know will inspire so many people to start playing with textures in Illustrator themselves, because why not?
Yeah, it is a lot of fun.
Yes. Okay. Once again, Gustaf, thank you so much for sharing your work with us and teaching us so much about how to add texture to our illustrations using Adobe Illustrator. Today, we learned how to create your own tiff textures, how to add swatch patterns, and how to use even your own pattern making to create even more infinitely scalable textures. So thank you guys for watching us today. Remember to subscribe to Adobe Live if you haven't already. And now stick around for the Illustrator Creative Challenges with Claddy from Print My Soul, followed by a new episode of Power Prompts with Cody Bear, followed by a new episode of What's Next with Anika Agarwal. So for tonight, your homework is to go ahead and follow Gustaf on Instagram so you can keep up with all of his work. Remember to subscribe once again to the Adobe Live channel on YouTube so you don't miss our next live. Thanks so much for being with us here today. Thank you, Gustaf. See you guys next time. Thank you. Amazing work.